Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar series Immunodeficiency Insights. This evening's webinar will focus on tips for living well for young adults and particularly mental wellbeing and self-care and self-management. So I'm Estella from IDFA and thank you for joining me. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands where I am and the traditional custodians of the lands where you are, and pay my respects to all elders, past, present, and also those that are emerging in all our communities. I also extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples that gather with us through this webinar, but also through the recording that later on we'll post on our website. So welcome to the Immunodeficiencies Foundation of Australia Immunodeficiency Insights webinars. So each month we bring you valuable information, educational webinars on so many different topics to support you in your journey. And the Immunodeficiency Foundation of Australia is a member-based organisation. So we represent people living with primary and secondary immunodeficiencies. We are a national peak body with more than 2,000 members, and our vision is really for a future where primary and secondary immunodeficiencies are diagnosed and treated early, and the affected people are supported by clinicians, community and government to allow optimal quality of life. As Australia's peak patient organisation, our strategic priorities are education, awareness, care and support, particularly building community, advocacy and driving change. So just to let everyone know that we'll be recording this webinar today and sharing the recording on the IDFA webpage. So firstly, we have Dr Droney, a Queensland immunologist who works with young adults as well as adult members, and he'll be sharing his top tips, I guess, for young adults to move into self-management and take the driver's seat, I guess, around staying well. And then we have Dr Alisa Kane, who will provide a quick research update, inviting young adults and carers to be part of a study to improve the health system for young people transitioning to adult care. And then we're very pleased to have with us Janet Burke, a counsellor working with young adults with chronic conditions and focusing really on how you can add self-care to the mix. Then we'll be hearing from Imogen, Damian and Jess, our recent young adult members, sharing their journey and what they've learnt along the way. And we'll also be hearing from IDFA staff member Marie about how we're building community for young adult members at IDFA and the feedback that we've received so far. And lastly, I'll be sharing some free online self-paced programs and anonymous chats that you can add to your favourites for self-care if you're needing to reach out or you're feeling, overwhelmed. So for our first presentation, we're really pleased to have with us Dr Luke Droney, who will share what he has found young people, I guess, most need to hear around supporting themselves to move into self-management. And Luke is a clinical immunologist and immunopathologist at Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital, seeing adults, including young adults. And Luke has broad expertise in all areas of immunology, allergy and immunopathology, with a special interest in primary and secondary immunodeficiencies. He's also an IDFA board member and member of the IDFA Medical Advisory Panel. So over to you, Luke.
Thank you very much. Can I just check everyone can see and hear me okay? Is that It's okay? Yeah. So thank you for the kind introduction and thanks for asking me to speak. So I'm not going to take too much of everyone's time tonight, but there are a couple of things that I thought I could cover around young adults with immunodeficiency and managing the transition through to adult care and young adulthood. And the first thing to discuss is really for people who are moving from paediatric care to the adult hospital. And this can be a really really challenging time for young members because the model of care can become quite different. The adult hospital can be a bit of a scary place in comparison to the children's hospital. And as we progress into adulthood, there's more kind of responsibility that needs to be taken by the individual patient rather than relying on parents or carers for motivation around appointments and treatments and so on. So one of the things that is really important is that obviously a lot of patients with primary and secondary immunodeficiency have a really long and complicated history. So often I find as a adult immunologist, it takes me a long time to get my head around all of the various things that are going on with these very interesting and complicated young people who are coming to see me. So one of the things that is really important is to discuss a plan early with your pediatric immunologist about when you're going to be going to the adult hospital. And where I work, we're really happy to start seeing our patients when they're usually in grade 11 or 12, and we try to overlap care with our pediatric colleagues. And when you come to the adult hospital for the first time, bring as much information as you can and bring a parent or friend, because obviously a lot of those people will have been on this journey with you from early life. And as such, you know, the memory may not be so great. So bring as much information as you can to that appointment around treatments, medications, scans. Really, the more the better, I think. And another thing that's really important is to have a good relationship with a general practitioner. A lot of patients with primary and secondary immunodeficiency need to see more than one specialist. So often my patients are also seeing respiratory or infectious diseases or various other specialties within the hospital. And it's really important to have a GP as a primary point of contact to manage all of those various specialists and to be an initial point of contact. And it's important to have a GP, and it's important to keep a good relationship with them. And remember, moving into adult care, self-advocacy becomes more important, but also self-motivation. So really the onus shifts a lot to the individual to really drive and manage their own medical problems and their own self-care. Next slide, thank you. So another thing that happens a lot moving into adulthood is, well, firstly, moving away from home for either university, work, or to travel. And this can be a challenging thing when undergoing treatment for immunodeficiency. So for our patients that are on immunoglobulin replacement, it is, of course, feasible to travel, particularly with subcutaneous immunoglobulin. But often it's about planning and giving your team as much notice as they can to facilitate either a transfer of care to another hospital or if for infusions or to another centre where there's another immunologist. And for example, going overseas, it's feasible to take subcutaneous immunoglobulin overseas with you, but you just need to give your hospital or your infusion unit plenty of notice. Travel insurance can be something, unfortunately, that's difficult for patients traveling with medical conditions, but that's another thing that it pays to really research in advance and be sure when you're traveling what you are and aren't covered for when you're traveling with medical conditions. when you're away from home, I think it's really important to carry a letter from your immunologist or other doctor so that all of the medical information is there. If you do end up in a situation where you need to be seeking medical care away from home, and have a plan as well for if you get sick while you're away. And part of that might be having antibiotics with you while you're away traveling and having those ready to go. So you should discuss that with your doctor before you go. And vaccinations also really important to think about what vaccinations you might need, not just as a regular kind of thing, but specifically for travel as well. So next slide, please. Yeah, so something else we start to think about, I guess different people are at different stages of their lives, but moving towards adulthood, we need to start thinking about family planning. And some people want to talk about this early and others not. But it's important to bear in mind that there are some primary immunodeficiency syndromes, or a number of immunodeficiency syndromes that have a defined genetic cause and can be inherited in a defined pattern. So for some individuals, there's a risk that their children may be affected by the same genetic disorder. And this being the case, it's important to think about this early and make a time to potentially meet with a clinical geneticist or genetic counsellor to talk about that risk and what can be done to mitigate it. Next slide, thanks. Yeah, so some other things. So one of the things that is vital in immunodeficiency is looking after your lungs. And coming into adulthood is also a time when we all get an opportunity to try various substances. So I don't need to tell anyone that smoking is bad, but it's particularly bad if you have immunodeficiency, because there can be anything that increases the risk of chest infections is very bad. So smoking, whether that's cigarettes or anything else that you might put into the lungs, and I would include vaping there, is a real no-no in immunodeficiency, because really the lungs that you've got are the ones that you're stuck with. You need to look after them as best you can. That's the biggest thing that I worry about in most of my patients with immunodeficiency is recurrent chest infections. And then more kind of general things like taking care not to exceed healthy alcohol consumption. Nutrition is really important to maintain immune function. And exercise actually is also important to maintain immune function. There's some evidence that I've seen come out recently showing that in older individuals, maintaining exercise can help with maintaining immune function and preventing inflammation. And just generally, I think this is, you could say this to anyone, but having hobbies outside of work and medical care is really, really important to maintain a good quality of life. So I think that's my last slide, Estella. So yeah. I will leave it there. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you so much, Luke. It's really great to hear, I guess, from a medical perspective about key things that will really make a difference to young adults, and around sort of controlling health, because I guess most young people don't want to really hear from a doctor what they need to do in terms of living their lifestyle, but it's worth sort of considering that the information, I guess, from an immunologist. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. So next we have Dr. Alisa Kane, who's a clinical immunologist and immunopathologist at St Vincent's and Liverpool hospitals. Dr. Kane's clinical and research specialties are in the diagnosis and management of primary immunodeficiencies in particular, and she's established an adult immunodeficiency bone marrow transplantation service at St Vincent's Hospital. She's also really actively involved in translational research, investigating mechanisms of disease and improving clinical outcomes for people with primary immunodeficiency. She's also got a really strong interest in improving transition of young adults into the adult care system to better support their outcomes. And Alisa has also kindly provided a recording for this evening as she's unable to be with us tonight. Oops. Sorry, it appears her recording's not playing. I'll just be reading through. Oh no, we've got the recording over here. I think that should work.
Hi, my
There we
name's
go.
Alisa Kane and I'm a clinical immunologist. I look after people 18 years and over, but many of my patients with primary immune deficiencies have had their conditions since childhood. They've been seen in the paediatric healthcare system, like the kids' hospitals, and then around the age of 18, they come across to the adult medical system. Today, I'd like to talk about transitioning into adult care. This is something that will affect all people living with a primary immune deficiency who are diagnosed and treated in childhood. We know that this can be a tricky time as you navigate a new healthcare system, new faces, and also learn to take care of your own health. It's also a difficult time for your carers as they step back from their decision-making role in your health and hand over the reins to you. Hi, my name's Alisa Kane and I'm a clinical immunologist.
Sorry.
I look after people 18 years and over, but many of my patients with primary immune deficiencies have had their conditions since childhood. They've been seen in the paediatric healthcare system, like the kids' hospitals, and then around the age of 18, they come across to the adult medical system. Today, I'd like to talk about transitioning into adult care. This is something that will affect all people living with a primary immune deficiency who are diagnosed and treated in childhood. We know that this can be a tricky time as you navigate a new healthcare system, new faces, and also learn to take care of your own health. It's also a difficult time for your carers as they step back from their decision-making role in your health and hand over the reins to you. From our experience, we think we can do better to make the transition process easier for patients and their carers. So, in collaboration with researchers, including myself and others, we at IDFA are running a study to map out the current or recent experiences of adolescent and young adults moving into adult care. We are keen to find out about your experiences, what worked well, what didn't work so well, and most importantly, what you think we could do better to improve the process. We're keen to hear from any person with a primary immune deficiency about to or have already moved into the adult healthcare system from the paediatric system and also from their carers. We are especially keen to hear from people 16 years to 25 years old and their carers, as you would have had the most recent experience, but we are interested in hearing from anyone who's gone through this experience. If you are interested, the way to sign up is to please contact the IDFA for more information on the study, and we will follow up with you. Thank you.
So thank you so much. I know Alisa wasn't able to be here. I know she wanted to be here very much, but if you could please reach out if you'd like to contribute to improve, I guess, the way young adults navigate the health system, please do that. So next we have Janet Burke with us, who is an experienced counsellor who works with young adults with complex health conditions, and she'll be sharing what she's learned to add real self-care to the mix to stay well and what this can really look like for young adults. So Janet is a mum and partner living with lived experience of immune conditions. She's a counsellor at a holding space, her private practice, and an early childhood teacher working in primary. She has experience being an early childhood teacher working in primary schools, early childhood and special education. She worked in child protection also and 20 years as a play therapist in paediatric health. Currently, she's at the Sydney Children's Hospital as a manager in play and music therapy. And she has a special interest in grief and loss counselling. So over to you, Janet.
Thanks, Estella. It's really lovely to be here and nice to meet. I wish I could see all of your faces, but really nice to meet you all. I just, I guess, was asked to talk about self-care, and it's a topic I'm pretty passionate about. So I'm going to do a little bit of an outline of kind of what are the definitions, what are the ways that we can create self-care that we can actually sustain. One of the things that I've learned, I wish I could say through my professional training, but honestly through my lived experience of being ill and navigating life, is about how disembodied we can become and how important it is to really spend some time tuning in with our bodies. So I'll talk just a little bit about embodiment and some good resources you might enjoy around that. And yeah, just share with you some resources and I guess hoping to inspire you to be building your own self-care toolbox, because I think the really important thing to highlight about this is that self-care can seem like something that could be put on 5 PowerPoint slides, but we're all very individual humans with very individual lives, very individual interests. So it's a really individual thing. And for it to be sustained and embedded, it has to be stuff that works well for you, that resonates with you. So next slide, please. I went to click my arrows and it won't work. So what is self-care? I get a little bit on a soapbox about this, because I think that often if we look at Instagram and TikTok and what's out there in terms of the advertising world, it would be easy to think that self-care is about having lovely bubble baths and staying in luxury hotels and having your nails done. And all of those things are really beautiful and they can be part of self-care. They can be a really lovely way to take a break. But actually, a lot of self-care is stuff that isn't really so fun or appealing. And a lot of it is the stuff that Luke so well outlined in his. Sometimes it's getting on top of and organising your to-do lists. And that might be about being able to start to collate your medical records together with your carers to be ready to transition to the adults system and to make sure you get that comprehensive care. It's not the funnest job in the world. It might be eating healthier. It might be exercising. And again, I feel like I'm covering territory that Luke already beautifully covered. Like, exercise isn't always the thing that you jump up and go, what will I do to really look after myself today? But it's really, really essential for all of us. And it is important to that embodiment piece that we really spend some time just being very present in our bodies and looking after our bodies. And I guess my overall message about self-care, as someone who's still learning how to do it, and I think it is a lifelong journey, but is how do we put things in place that are small and sustainable? And I think for me, mindfulness is the thing that comes to mind. I'm pretty sure all of you will have had some talks about at school or some discussions with healthcare professionals about mindfulness and how important it is. And what we can often jump to is doing a 30-minute meditation practice every day. I've never been able to do that. I've tried all kinds of things. It doesn't work for me. But it might be for you that a 5-minute morning embodiment practice or a little 2-minute mindfulness exercise that you can do when you feel yourself feeling a bit triggered or out of control might be a really sustainable way to embed mindfulness. It might be 5 minutes of journaling when I wake up in the morning. I don't know, and some of you might have heard there's a movement at the moment, it's called morning pages, and it's like I get up and before my day starts, I write some stuff in a journal. So different things are really going to work for different people. And there's thousands of things that might be part of your self-care. And it's really about exploring for yourself what nurtures you in balance with what needs to happen for you to be looking after yourself. Next slide. Thanks, Estella. So, you know, I've presented you the kind of, it could be relaxing and joyful. It might be some of the not so exciting things, to-do lists, paying the bills, doing my exercise. Sometimes it actually might be the opposite. And I think this is the really difficult thing about defining self-care. Sometimes if you're a highly task-oriented person and you get up every morning at 6 and you go for that jog and that's what you do, some days self-care might look like saying, I've actually listened to my body and I can't do that today. What I need to do today is rest. Sometimes self-care is not beating yourself up when you don't get through the to-do list that you've written, and really giving yourself some grace and some space. And there's a really cool, I don't know if any of you guys have seen this woman, but there's this fantastic woman in the United States who has this website, the Nap Ministry. And she's very like, we live in a world that encourages to just be doing all the time and be productive and be out there getting stuff done. And she's like, I am taking the opposite approach. I'm going to have some time to rest every day. And I'm going to, that's an important part of my self-care. So she's pretty cool if this is something that's resounding with you. Next slide. Thanks, Estella. Sometimes self-care involves really difficult things. And I think, again, when I was listening to Luke talk, like sometimes self-care is about going through 4 GPs till you find the person that you really feel safe with and you've got a good communication and relationship with. It's not, again, it's not very fun. It's not very glamorous. Sometimes self-care is about learning how to set boundaries with people who drain your energy or ask more of you than's reasonable. Sometimes self-care is about having difficult conversations. And I know as someone who's worked for a long time in hospitals, and I wish I could hear some of your guys' experiences, but it's certainly been my experience talking to young people and parents that often there's a quite difficult power dynamic in a hospital environment, and families and kids and young people feel quite disempowered. And so self-care might actually be getting up the courage to talk to the social worker who said something inappropriate, or to talk to the physio who delivered something in an appropriate way. It might be about having a difficult conversation with a teacher about how they've been insensitive to something that it should be clear that you need. And I manage a team. I'm a mum. I've done lots of training in difficult conversations. None of us like it. It's not pleasant, no matter how much you've practiced it, no matter how much you've done it. And again, it's that really less glamorous side of self-care, but it is really, really important to practice that skill of being really aware of your own needs and your own resources and what you have to give to other people, and having conversations where needed about expectations and what's reasonable and what's not. Next slide, please, Estella. And so there's just, I'm a big fan of Instagram, which is probably showing my age. But there's heaps, you can look through these slides later. There's heaps of great places that, for me, I think a lot of people would say that part of self-care might be turning off Instagram and getting off your screen. For me, my feed on Instagram is full of people publishing this kind of beautiful stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes to download from the day, and I'm going to read some stuff that will really remind me what's important to me, how to nourish myself. So I think, again, I feel like I'm talking in contradictions, because for some people, self-care will be setting a timer and not being on social media. And for other people, you might have curated your social media feed so that self-care is about letting yourself have 15 minutes to relax and immerse yourself in some stuff that's really either, what's the word I'm looking for? brain numbing. Sometimes we all need that, a silly show on Netflix or some ridiculous YouTube, just a little bit of time out to relax. Or it might be, you know, reading some books or looking at some content that really reminds and encourages us to nurture ourselves and look after ourselves. And I love this woman who does blessings manifesting. She just writes beautiful. Every time I read something that she publishes, I'm like, why didn't I think to say it like that? How beautiful. So there's lots of cool creators out there developing content that can just be, I think, lovely reminders for all of us, because it's only human. We get caught up in the hustle and sometimes forget that if we can't look after ourselves, we actually can't be there for other people and look after other people very well. Next slide. Thanks, Estella. So I think I've referred to this before. How do we develop self-care that's actually sustainable? Because it's easy to, and New Year's is the place that comes to mind, I think. For most of us, it's easy to get it right. This year, I'm going to lose 5 kilos and I'm going to jog every morning and I'm going to do yoga every night before bed and I'm going to never go on social media after 7 o'clock and I'm going to read a book every week. Is it actually sustainable? And for me, self-care that's sustainable is first of all based in just really making some space and some time to be in touch with ourselves, our needs, our feelings, our bodies. And I don't know, again, if any of you have seen, but there's a beautiful woman in the United States called Kirsten Neff, and she's developed a whole lot of little exercises and things and done a lot of research about this idea of self-compassion. And self-compassion is really taking that moment to go, whatever it was, that appointment with the GP didn't go very well. I feel pretty crappy. Okay, checking in with myself. What do I need right now? How do I feel right now? I wonder what I could maybe do differently next time. And coming back to that kind of centering and grounding ourselves. And for me, I think self-care can often feel very surface level, but really good self-care comes down to actually really caring for and loving ourselves and really wanting to take care of ourselves. And that involves sometimes some quite hard work to get to that place. And I think I did see on one of the slides which I had a sneak preview of, like that, not comparing ourselves to other people, being true to ourselves and our needs. So really just going that little bit deeper than I'm going to do a breathing exercise each morning, tick, that self-care sorted. It really, really is about really tuning into ourselves and looking after ourselves because we believe we deserve to be looked after. So again, another just little fun one, and guess what? It's from Blessings Manifesting again, but that being compassionate, seeking support. And I think that examples like tonight, like people might not say going to a webinar is good self-care, but what a fantastic opportunity to get some different information, to potentially find some people you want to follow up with and connect with. We're creatures of community and connection. Human beings are wired to be with other people and to not feel alone. And so self-care might be about joining a peer support group or doing something with the community at your hospital or finding a counsellor that you really trust that you can talk to or going for a walk with a friend. It can be different things for different people. And that I think there's lots of this stuff. I've really just put these in as sort of stuff that you can refer back to or have a little look and follow some of these people if they interest you. But that stuff around how we set boundaries, how we work on our own coping and self-regulation, how we really look after ourselves deeply beyond the surface of just eat well, rest, exercise. So I think, again, that it's really important for all of us, and having had a couple of chronic immune health conditions over my lifetime, there's that extra level of needing to be aware. So what are personal triggers? that trigger you, and what are the things that you can use? What are the tools you've got to self-regulate you? And I've got a little slide later with Rebecca Barla stuff. She's a New Zealand therapist, and she just has beautiful little exercises that you can do that are little 2-minute things to regulate yourself. There's, again, lots of beautiful content out there on social media, but how do we notice in ourselves when we're not okay, and what's our action plan to do? Times like when we go on holidays, when it's Christmas and everything, our routine's out of whack. And again, as Luke said, what about if we're traveling or we're moving away from home? Like really being mindful, again, not especially glamorous or relaxing, but how do we pre-plan? How do we make sure we've got the resources we need? And obviously, you know, I'm not going to rehash what's already been covered, but really important to take your medications, to have that routine that you stick to have stuff prepared like travel insurance, to have documentation with you. Again, stuff that isn't necessarily so fun or glamorous. So this is embodiment is something that I'm pretty passionate about, and probably a lot of you are probably a lot better at this than I am. So I'm going to own feeling like a little bit of a hypocrite talking to you all about this, but it's something that had never occurred to me. And when I personally first started going to see a counsellor, I was very blah, 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 and this happened and that happened and something else happened. And she'd go, yeah, Janet, where do you feel that in your body? And I was like, this woman's a lunatic. What is she talking about? Anyway, then this happened and then this person did this and I was so angry and she, yeah, can you just stop? Where do you feel that in your body? And it actually took me months to notice that I was completely disembodied. I lived very much in my head. I told lots of stories. I talked a lot. That's how I cope with things. And I didn't spend a lot of time just checking in with myself and my body. So we could do a whole talk just about this stuff, but if it's something that you're interested in or passionate, again, Rebecca has a beautiful social media presence and lots of little books and things. I think I got this one at Aldi for $10, but she's got lots of free stuff on social media and I've got her website there. And the other person that I would really recommend people look at is this incredible Canadian therapist called Hilary McBride. And this little book is just literally little embodiment exercises. What are things we can do? But again, she's got lots of podcasts and little YouTube clips and things. If it's something that you're like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not that in touch with my body, they're two really good people to have a look at. So I guess in a way, in summing up, it's really important, and I'm sure that you're going to hear this from other people after I speak. You know you best of all. I can give you a million resources and lots of ideas and tell you what the textbook, you know yourself. Be kind to yourself. You might set the best self-care plan up and it might last a week and you might have to revisit it. Self-care really is something different for everybody. So it takes a bit of investigating and a bit of exploring and a bit of working out what works for you. And what is self-care for one person can literally be torture for another. Like there are shows that I know that people watch to wind down at the end of the day. I'm like, I can't think of anything worse than watching that on television. How awful, right? It's something it really needs to be what works for you and what helps you. So I've got Rebecca's Journey to Wellness website there, the Kirsten Neef Self-Compassion one. The other thing that I recommend to people to have a look at a lot, Emily Nagotsky is actually an incredible sex therapist of all professions, and her sister Amelia is an orchestra conductor, and Amelia had a breakdown when she was finishing her doctorate in orchestra conducting, and they wrote this book about burnout. And it was really, for me, it was a really aha moment in my life when I heard them speaking on a podcast with Brené Brown, and they're like, feelings are not in your head, they're in your body. That's why they're called feelings. They're not about your brain, they're about your nervous system. So again, you can Google them. They've done a couple of talks and a couple of podcasts, and I think some really good content for reminding us how to look after ourselves and not end up in that place of burnout. And I think we're wrapping up because I'm very aware. So I guess what I want to close with is what is going to be in your self-care toolbox, what's already in your self-care toolbox, and how can you make a little bit of time to have to do a check-in and an assessment? What's actually working, what's really nurturing, what actually serves my health? And I'll wrap it up there because I know we've got lots of other fantastic people who need time to speak.
Thank you so much, Janet. That was amazing. I think the whole embodiment stuff, absolutely. It would be wonderful to have you back to just deal with that. I think for everybody across the lifespan, it's just such an important topic. Yeah, so thanks again. So next we have member insights from Imogen, Damian and Jess. And these are recent young adult members that are going to be just speaking about their journey, staying well and what they've learned. So first up is Imogen sharing her insights as both a recent young adult and also a psychologist, which is fascinating. Great combo, particularly for this talk. So Imogen is an IDFA member and clinical psychologist in Sydney, New South Wales. She's been involved with IDFA since 2017 when she was diagnosed with CVID and began receiving regular plasma-based infusions to treat her immune deficiency. And through her work as a psychologist, Imogen actively advocates for the unique mental health and community-wide supports needed by young people who experience chronic conditions. So thank you so much, Imogen, for being with us today. Over to you.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm Imogen. I'm a clinical psychologist from Sydney and a youngish person with a primary immune deficiency. I've been involved with IDFA since my diagnosis in 2017 and regularly support young people who experience chronic health issues through my work. So I've been told I only have 5 minutes tonight, so I'll do a bit of a speed run through my slides, but feel free to send through any questions if you have any, and I'm sure they'll get answered at the end. So my story starts in 2015 when I got a gut parasite during a family trip to Bali and then spent the next 2 years battling significant gastrointestinal issues before being diagnosed with CVID. Since then, I've received monthly intravenous infusions to support my immune system and continue to learn about different ways to support my health and well-being. So this evening, I wanted to start with a few specific challenges on the immune deficiency health journey that can throw us for a loop, as well as some tips for how to navigate them and to support yourself to live well. So, of course, the first challenge is the initial diagnosis. This is a time when we can feel grief for our healthy selves, fear and uncertainty about our futures, and even needing to manage the feelings and worries of those around us. Another challenge area is the initial stages of treatment. So that can be the first treatment that you have or new ones that you're trying later on. There's a lot of anxiety and frustration that tend to come up when it comes to treatment in terms of them being quite invasive, painful, ineffective, time-consuming, all that kind of stuff. I know for myself, I battled with a significant needle phobia and a lot of frustration at the amount of time I needed to spend getting infusions done. So we'll move on to the next slide, thanks. And the next one, I think, as well. So the next thing is that there's going to be inevitable periods of ill health, and this can be a massive stress for us. Having to constantly be vigilant for illness in others, having anger at other people for not taking seriously the impact of their behavior on us, and frustration at the impact of getting sick on our day-to-day lives. I know for me, I'm out for the count for about 3 weeks if I get sick. Luckily, I don't get hospitalized very often. But for many of you, it may be longer being ill and often more life-threatening as well. Next slide, thank you. And of course, big life changes. So that could be things like leaving school, starting a new job, getting into a relationship, having kids, you name it. When you have a chronic illness, you don't get to take for granted that your health will always be on your side. There can be a lot of sadness and uncertainty around what our life is going to look like. But I don't want this to feel too doom and gloom, because while each of our experiences with our primary immune deficiencies is going to be really unique to each of us, there are absolutely things that we can do to make it easier and to find joy and happiness and fulfillment in our lives. So, a couple of top tips for living well. Become the expert of your own body. You will have medical and non-medical people tell you all sorts of things, much of which will hopefully be helpful. but you're ultimately the person who knows your own body and experiences best. And so empowering yourself through knowledge about your condition and your treatments and your health, and advocating for yourself in your health and general life contexts are key ways to make sure that you are living well. Having a support system is also vital. You need to find your people, be that friends, family, colleagues, peers, health professionals, or support groups like IDFA. And you need to let them help you, both when they offer and to encourage yourself to ask when you need it, even if you don't always want to. You've also got to take your general health and your mental health seriously. I'm not going to give you any specifics about how that should look for you, but instead I'm going to encourage you to think about what helps you feel good and to do that. Everybody's version of healthy looks a little bit different. And if you're not sure what that looks like for you, people like Janet, myself, and other mental and physical health professionals can be a really good start. And finally, as Janet mentioned, be kind to yourself. And before anyone rolls their eyes, and we can't see your faces, but I imagine there's a couple of eye rolls going on, I want to really emphasize the importance of kindness over positivity when you have a chronic illness. Life with a chronic illness is not always going to feel positive, happy, or fun. So don't shame yourself when you don't feel that way. All we can do is practice and get support to practice genuinely being kind to ourselves, especially when things feel hard. I received great help from my family, friends, and health professionals, including a wonderful psychologist who helped me through my needle phobia and helped me to see the importance of kindness to myself. So my take-home message is this: chronic conditions have their ups and downs, but all storms pass eventually, even if the water feels especially choppy sometimes. You need to let yourself learn to ride each wave with the support of those around you. You got to let them support you, and to find that kindness within you. Thank you.
Thanks, Imogen. That was just amazing how you were sort of really reinforcing, allowing other people to care for us. It's not something, I guess, in life where we've got a lot of things we're individually achieving for ourselves, and we can think a lot about, what we need to do. And, being a teenager, you've got to move into adulthood and, have responsibility. But it's sort of that allowing others to kind of care for us that can be really hard to do. So thank you so much for bringing that home. So next we have Jess Cragg from New South Wales sharing her journey, particularly through the many challenges that she's had to go through in her with complications that she's had to manage along the way. So Jess is 28 years old, lives in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales with her husband and some cats. She studied at the University of Sydney and until recently worked in media, where she helped introduce the industry's first disability action plan. And at age 20, she was diagnosed with autoimmune encephalitis and started IVIG. So at 24, she was diagnosed with CVID and autoimmune gastritis, where she then switched to SCIG. And she's an avid reader, trying to hit 40 books a year, and is halfway through crocheting a sizable big blanket. During her journey, Jess has found balance through gym, gardening, hiking, and yoga. And having experienced the mental toll and unpredictability of immune diseases, she feels strongly about helping others navigate through them. So over to you, Jess. Thank you.
Thanks, Estella. So I don't have any professional background in this, so it'll be purely my experience and how I've cared for myself. So my journey has obviously had a few twists. My autoimmune encephalitis in 2017 resulted in around 2 years of memory loss and epilepsy and hit me pretty hard. Prior to this, I'd been a healthy woman studying at uni. I then woke up in hospital with no knowledge of what I was studying and basically had to be brought up to speed on my own life. In the years after that, I was then diagnosed with autoimmune gastritis and CVID, which impacted me even more. Next slide, please. As you can imagine, my mental health took a massive hit. No one really expects this to happen in the prime of their life where they kind of want to be clubbing instead. I spent a lot of time mourning the loss of those years forgotten and adapting to the new reality, which included IVIG, SCIG, and about 20 pills a day for my epilepsy. I was very lucky to have an incredibly supportive group of friends, my family, and my now husband who have helped me complete my degree. Next slide, please. Compared to that initial diagnosis period, I'm in a much better place. A lot of this revolved around the tips I'll give at the end, but also echoing Janet and Imogen, acknowledging where my body is at in the moment and being flexible around this. I found a lot of staying balanced is knowing when not to push myself. So that isn't to say I can always reach for that flexibility easily. I am human. I can often find the unpredictability of it all to be the biggest challenge. One day I may be able to do everything normally, and the next it just has to be the bare minimum due to exhaustion, a seizure, or appointments. This was compounded by new autoimmune diseases popping up along the way, meaning continual change. What worked one day might not work the next. Next slide, please. These tips have helped majorly though, and obviously I have no medical background, so it's just what I've found has worked. So this includes acknowledging where your body's at day by day and letting it rest if it needs to. Otherwise, you might find the exhaustion just compounds and you get hit with it later harder and potentially burn out. Secondly, stop comparisons to others or even comparisons to how you were performing the previous day. It can be so easy to get into a slump this way. Everyone is different and fighting their own battles, even if you can't see them. Thirdly, let those close to you know when it is a bad day instead of masking it. Don't struggle alone where you don't have to. You have people that love you and will support you if you need them to help you. Lastly, implement self-care in the form of whatever hobby or activity gives you joy. For me, that is yoga, reading, gardening, hiking, and crochet. And you can see my garden there in the slides. And don't underestimate the power of little treats and rewards, even if it is a reward for doing a small task and getting out of bed on a hard day. It all counts. So to sum up, my message is don't struggle alone and stop comparisons. Your circle is there to support you as you all go through your individual journeys. Thanks. Back to Estella.
Thank you so much, Jess. And I think that's probably even because you aren't a mental health professional, it's actually why it's so important to hear your voice and hear what you have found has really worked for you. And I think that's what everyone kind of really appreciates from people's journey, what they have personally found in their own walk. So thank you so much for being so honest about that. That's wonderful. Thank you. So next we have Damian Scott from New South Wales.
Hi everyone, my name is Damian. I'm 28 years old. I live in Windsor, New South Wales. Been married for 4 years to my beautiful wife Leah. I have 2 beautiful dogs and I work as a salesman at a security wholesaler based in Lane Cove.
So Damian was diagnosed with CVID at 18 months. He enjoyed trampolining and was actually quite good at it and was part of national competitions. So that was a sport that he chose. He loves cars and motorbikes and now works as a trampolining coach with children and young adults. And he's really passionate about supporting young people to stay active for their mental health and physical well-being. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to be with us this evening, but he's provided a recording of his information for you all.
I got diagnosed with CVID or hypogammaglobulinemia when I was about 18 months old. I started my first IVIG infusions when I was about 4, and I started my first subcut infusions when I was about 12 years old, and I've been doing them weekly ever since. My other main medical conditions are eosinophilic esophagitis. I've got anaphylaxis to preservatives and sulfites in food. I've got ichthyosis and eczema with my skin, and I've got Birdholt-Dubé syndrome, which is completely unrelated to CVID, but it is something I do need to monitor. I've always been a very active and sporty person. My parents were very cautious of me doing outdoor sports. I've always loved football, but they never wanted me to play outdoor sports at a young age due to the risk of infection if I did get any cuts or anything outside. So I was usually limited to indoor sports. I found a calling for trampolining and tumbling. I competed at a national level for quite a number of years for that and trained for quite a number of years. I loved the sport so much that I became a manager of a trampoline park and got to jump on trampolines all day, every day, which is really cool. And I'm now a coach and a judge for a tumbling school based in Riverstone, which I'm enjoying a lot. Other sports I was involved in have been athletics and swimming at school. And then I've also done quite a bit of OzTag at my later age as well. Things that I struggled with when I was younger, I used to be embarrassed about my immunodeficiency. I used to be ashamed of it almost. The portacath that I had was really quite difficult for me, being so young and skinny as well. It used to stick out quite a lot, and people used to question me about it and bring up conversations that I didn't really want to talk about realistically. I didn't feel comfortable talking about it. Subcut really helped me to, first of all, be more confident in my own body. It also gave me a lot more freedom, independence, and flexibility with my busy schedule as well, because I didn't have to depend on other people to do my needle. I had my own ability to do it myself when I wanted to, and it really helped me move from my into teenagehood into being a young adult into now adulthood, being in control of my own life and my own condition. My family and friends have always been really supportive of my health decisions. They've always made sure that my health comes first. My parents sacrificed a lot for me when I was younger and made sure that I had a life worth living. My wife took over from my parents and tries to make sure that I stay as positive as possible in every situation. But she's known me for over 14 years and moved from a friendship role into a family role now, where she looks after me and makes sure that my health comes first. There's a saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I really don't think that's true for people with immunodeficiencies. I've adapted that sort of saying to adapt to my own life, and I've lived by this every single day. If you have a perfect apple every single day, it's just an apple. If you have an apple every day with bruised bits, with black spots on it, what do you do with the apple? Do you chuck it out? No, you cut out the bad and you find what is good. If you have bad or negative parts in your life, don't focus on the bad. You look for the good parts and you focus on the good. I can think negatively about my immunodeficiency, but realistically, that's not going to do me any good. I can think, why me? Why do I have this immunodeficiency? Why don't my siblings have this? Why? Just there's so many whys and what ifs. Instead of looking at it in a negative way, I try to think of it as a positive way. I'm still here. I'm still alive. I am well. I'm fit. I've got a good quality of life. And it's because I'm taking my weekly subcut infusions. And it's because I'm staying well and because of the smart doctors and my supportive family and supportive friends and whatnot as well. Thinking of it in a more positive way has really helped me be more positive in life in general. And it makes sure that I'm looking for the good part of the apple every single day. My take-home messages for you all. Don't be embarrassed or ashamed about your medical condition or your immunodeficiency. It's nothing to be ashamed about. You were born with it. You can't help it. That's the way life is. Don't focus on the negative parts of your life, but try and find the good parts of your apple every single day. The day that you do have that perfect apple, you're going to learn to love it and appreciate it a lot more.
So thank you so much for Damian for his story, particularly around, I guess, what it's funnily enough what Luke was saying about activity and what the role is, I guess, of exercise. Just finding that sort of unique niche that you really enjoy. It could be something really simple. It doesn't have to be, being an international athlete, So thank you so much for Damian for really bringing home that point and his great sort of positivity. So next we have Marie Thompson from IDFA providing an overview of how we are currently working with young adult members to create community spaces and also resources moving forward. So Marie joined IDFA in April 2023 and is a passionate community builder They're responsible for welcoming new members, facilitating and upskilling members to host member-led community events and providing member insights to the team. And Maria is currently focused on increasing IDFA's offerings to young adult members aged 18 to 25 in the ways that best support their journey. So thanks, Marie, and over to you.
Thanks, Estella. Young adult members in IDFA. So I've been looking into this segment of our members for a little bit now, trying to work out what it is you guys want and what you're kind of calling for to help build the community and for IDFA to facilitate that. So with that, we've been doing some insight survey for a little while now. We've got some good responses from that. And from those results from the survey, we've got some IDFA-led events coming up, which I'll tell you about a little bit later, and some member-led opportunities that you're welcome to lean into now. Beautiful. So from that insight survey, we did get quite a few lovely responses. We were trying to get a sense of how IDFA has supported our young adult members to date and how we can kind of build on that. So some insights that we were given was IDFA facilitates connection with people my age, seeing that they're not alone in their journey, support from other people that understand what you're going through, feeling secure that IDFA is there, but also knowing that there are other people out there that are going through similar things. Overall, everyone found IDFA quite helpful, which is great. And we want to, again, build on what we're doing to keep that vibe alive. So one of the things that we really wanted to facilitate was more spaces for young people to come together, both in person and online. It's quite a new thing for young adult members with IDFA, so we were just testing the waters. Most members are quite keen, so we took that and ran. We're actively getting feedback from the events that we're creating and trying to streamline the experience to make it as positive for people as possible. So just to let you guys know what is out there, we've got IDFA YAM Connect. Hopefully everybody is a part of IDFA Connect, which is our biggest member group. It's got around 630 members in it so far. So it's a really lovely brains trust of all of our members coming together and sharing their experiences. We have quite a number of more specific support groups online. One of those are YAM Connect. So this group is for members that are between 18 and 25 to give them a safe space that's a little bit more contained to their age demographic to share those insights with other people who are going through a similar life stage. The YAM member mixes. So this is what has come out of that insight survey. So what we're doing is it's kind of a combo of IDFA-led and member-led combined together. We want it to be an informal space where members can share their experiences and also connect with young adult members on topics that they find interesting and valuable. It's not to share expert opinions. Everybody comes with positive and negative experiences of these topics, and all of those insights are really valuable. It is our goal to try and develop some resources out of these conversations to help support young adult members moving through these spaces in the future. But the primary focus is very much connecting the young adult members that are keen to link up with some other humans who understand what they're going through. So we've got five member mixes coming up. They're happening throughout August. They'll be on Thursday evenings, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The topics that we've got going on is battling burnout, socializing safely, healthy habits, mindfulness matters, and medical management. So again, everybody has their own unique outlook and experience, and these topics really touch on a lot of different situations that you will come across in your life. And we're welcoming members that are 18 to 28. So our young adult member bracket is usually 18 to 25, but as Estella highlighted at the beginning, we've got members who have just been through this space already, so they can contribute their experiences to the conversation as well. So the registration links for those will be sent out after this webinar, but they're already live on the website if you're really keen to sign up. Outside of those IDFA-led events, I just wanted to highlight the member-led opportunities that you're also more than welcome to be a part of and facilitate spaces in your local area. So we've got IDFA coffee clubs, which is a recent addition to our suite of events. What happens with those is a member keen to meet other members in their local area puts their hand up, says, hello, I would like to organize a coffee club. We then the member picks their venue and a date that works for them. I then go into the member database and invite all of the local members to that venue for your coffee club. One thing I would like to note is it doesn't have to be open to everybody. It can be to your member type. So as young adult members, you can choose to host a coffee club for young adult members specifically. We've also got online catch-ups. These are Zoom versions of that, informal member-led spaces where you can connect with other people online that understand what you're going through. At the moment, we have 3 regular catch-ups that are open to all members. However, if there are any super keen young people in this webinar that would be interested in having a bit of a chat over what facilitating a YAM catch-up would look like, I would love to have a chat with you.
Thanks, Marie.
That's okay. Beautiful. That's all of it. So I'll pass it over to Estella. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'll be just streaming on about what sort of Marie's already highlighted. I wanted to bring to your attention as well that there are some young adult members who are trained as peer mentors. And I guess what that really involves is it's just really a safe private space for support. Where we know a lot of young people and just people in general don't like groups. I mean, you know, if you're new to a group, it can be tough kind of putting yourself out there. So having just that private space with somebody over, say, a period of 12 weeks where you can really sort of identify anything that's really top of the mind for you and work through that with sort of a little action plan for yourself moving forward, just to build some confidence and just get yourself out of sort of maybe even some stuck thinking or you're just in a rut. So yeah, have a think about that. You can sign up through our webpage under community, and yeah, it's just a really simple form to fill in, and we can reach out. So there's also a list of free online evidence-based programs. They're self-paced for young people. You can go to the MPRAC webpage and search for digital mental health resources for young people. MPRAC is a service for mental health practitioners, but they've got some great resources for patients and community members. And they've got a really just good comprehensive list of digital resources for like young people. So MPRAC is EMPRAC. And there's also a private anonymous community space in Headspace, and you can access that through headspace.org.au or search on the webpage under Headspace. The beautiful thing about that is that there's actually counsellors there that moderate. So it's kind of cool, you know, interacting with counsellors, you know, in sort of a less sort of you're on the spot sort of way when you're face to face, you know, and sort of to lean into sort of the counselling area if that's something that you'd like to do. And there's a great list of apps at kidshelpline.com.au/tools/apps for young people age 12 right through to, you know, up to however, and maybe it's not even just for young people, but yeah, it's just a one-stop shop to have a look at all that's available. And then we've got Rare Voices. It's a peak body for rare diseases in Australia, and they've got some great mental wellbeing and rare disease digital resources, and also mental health and wellbeing webpage. So you can go to the Rare Voices Australia page and add to the search bar digital mental health or mental health, and that will all come up for you. And then we've got a variety of support services. Again, these can be saved, I guess, in your favorites. And it's kind of cool to have these one or two that you feel comfortable with. So the Anxiety in Kids Helpline, that actually goes right up to the ages of 25. And it deals specifically with anxiety. and there's community chat spaces, and free Beyond Blue mental health coaching for young adults also up to age 16 plus, and free headspace, face-to-face and telehealth services. I think most people know about those ones. And for transition to adult care resources, we have a booklet on the IDFA webpage called Moving from Child to Adult Care. And there's also trapeze resources, which are on the Sydney Children's Hospital website. So just search there under trapeze, and they've got a bit of a checklist there about all the things kind of that Luke was talking about and Janet was alluding to as well. And of course, the Young Mixers. So again, a reminder to sign up there. It's really a chance to share what's important to you, your tips for things like battling burnout, mental health. So we can really sort of look at putting that into some toolkits for young adult members. And the different dates there, we've got August the 8th for battling burnout, socialising, and we've got healthy habits, August 15th. We've got mindfulness, August 22nd, and all things medical management on August the 29th. So sign up through our events page by going to the community tab and then clicking on member mixes for more info about the dates and the links. So thanks again for joining us. Just stay on just to provide some feedback through our poll, and we will get that going for you. Thank you for that. So our next webinar on the 7th of August is Patient Perspectives in Immunodeficiencies, where we invite 4 members from different life stages to share what they really wished health professionals would have known right at the beginning to help them in their journey. And members are also going to be answering questions about their lived experiences from Dr. Sarah Yusuf, who is a GP, and nurse Geraldine Dunn as well, to help health professionals know how to better tailor their care needs to the people living with immunodeficiencies. So look out for more information on our e-news to register for that one, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you everybody for participating today. Thanks Marie, thanks Imogen, thanks Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.